Oh, there she is. So we've made it across to the shop. We have gotten everything ready. We're gonna go get the Jeep, bring it inside, and see if we can figure out this death wobble issue. It is horrible, nearly undrivable. That's the clean burn oil burner heater back there so that we don't have to work in the cold. See shirt sleeves in the winter time over here in southern Utah. It is a beautiful thing. We're gonna go get the Jeep from outside, get it pulled in here, and we will go to looking to see what we can find for problems. I really don't know. We've got good components in this thing. I'm hopeful we can find at least a stopgap solution to make this thing more drivable. It is unruly for sure. All right, bright morning here. Left my sunglasses in the Jeep. Gave me the bad case of the squints this morning. But here she is, Eyore in all her glory. Ignore that monster on the hood. It's been a long morning already. All right, we're in. Let's get the door closed before all the heat gets out. All right, so we've done a little bit of looking without you guys. Nothing seems to be superly odd. Got some scrape marks over here. I don't know exactly what those are from, but component-wise, it looks like we're okay. However, let me show you guys a development we found. Can you see the shininess? That shininess is a 100% indicator that that bolt is moving, and that bolt shouldn't move. So we're gonna throw this thing up on a jack, at least pull that bolt loose and get an eyeball in there and see how bad the bad is. We know it's bad, but how bad is the bad? We have also noted that this shock right here seems to be vacating some of its interior fluids. Everything else looks to be intact and for the most part okay. This side over here, I don't really see any movement in this side. That shock is only slightly leaking, which is good, but we will know more very, very shortly. Let's get this thing jacked up. We'll pull the tire off of it. That'll give us a little better access in there to that link. Pull the back bolt out of the link, drop the link down, and do a little inspection. I'm very afraid, just afraid, that we're going to have to do some repair on that bracket. I don't know what Jeep made those things out of, but it appears that it is not robust enough to take the violence of death wobble, because death wobble is terrible. I think you've seen the footage from inside of the Jeep of how violent the death wobble is. So this is what we get to play with just about every day now. We ended up in traffic, so we couldn't give you the full death wobble because the death wobble will put you in the ditch in a heartbeat. So we'll get this thing torn apart, tire off of it, and show you what we find. Well, that doesn't seem bad. Ball joints feel tight, I guess. The only major fubarage we have is that. All the components look all right. Brakes are probably due for replacement. It does have like 70-something thousand miles on it, but I think as far as ball joints and all the good stuff, we look like we're in okay shape. I'm not feeling any major movement in steering components, so may have killed a bird with a coil spring, but that happens occasionally. Oh yeah, look at this right here. Can you hear that? That is no longer pinched. We're gonna go get some sockets and take that loose, see why exactly things went south. It's not good. All right, we've got it up on a jack stand, which will keep us from dying. We've got a tire behind it in case jack stand fails. It won't. We're gonna pull this bolt out, maybe, and see what we can find going on here. we're gonna need to back up because the lock nut portion's working, but something's collapsing, I think. Okay, let's get some more dirt. All right. Okay, quite interesting. The joint feels good. It's a fully encased rubber joint. However, that hole right there shouldn't allow that bolt to do that. So my theory is that it's relying solely on pinch at this point, and this mount right here isn't quite up for the task. So we pinch it pinches down on this. We can measure this. We can grab a tape measure and measure this, but I believe that it's just squishing down because this is slightly smaller than that opening, which allows us to come up tight. Then it squeezes a little bit, whether it's settle out in the rubber or the sleeve is a little smaller, and then it became loose. Because it became loose, it allowed it to wallow out the frame. Though the holes still line up, that's because they're wallowed out the same on both sides. They're just not good for suspension components. The rubber in the bottom of this gives a bit, the rubber in this gives a bit, and the Wrangler platform is known for some death wobble issues when you go to bigger tires. We want to see if we can put a patch on it. I think I'm going to talk to a guy that's pretty smart with geometry in suspension systems and see if we can come up with a plan to better address this. Right now, I'm kind of afraid to let my wife drive it. Me, I'll Armstrong it, keep us out of the ditch. I know what's gonna happen, when it's gonna happen for the most part, because it scared the crap out of me a couple times. Enough so that I have developed a understanding of when things are gonna go south. I'm hoping that if we repair this, I'll order a shock absorbers or a pair of shock absorbers for the front. We've already changed the back. I'm gonna have to address the fronts now that they have decided to release their inner contents. I'll come up with a plan for this. I'll bring you back when I have a solid foundation of what I'm gonna do, and then we'll get her done. So we went and got a pair of calipers out of the other shop, and we're gonna do some comparison. This thing is 2 inches 6/16, 2 inches 7/23. That tells us that that thing has got to squeeze down 10/20 thousandths. It's got to pinch that together to hold on to it. That's the only thing that keeps that from moving back and forth, because the bolt has clearance in the hole. And if there's clearance, that means there's a little bit of movement, and a little bit of movement with two metal components with that much stress against them eventually makes a large movement. That's allowing that bolt to move back and forth in the hole. When it does that, it allows the front end to pivot. All right, so the top link's holding it steady at the top, but this bottom link is now moving back and forth, which changes the caster angle as it's moving. So when it hits something and it is forced back and up, which pulls pressure off the tire. It's a weird thing that happens with tires, especially bigger stuff. So your tires are, say, like yay, and as you start to drive, the force on the tire, the friction from the ground, wants to push the tires out as they go down the road. So you toe the tires in, usually about 1/8 of an inch of toe in, and that allows it, when it gets that friction against it and they pull basically straight. That keeps you going straight down the road. That makes everything happy. What appears to be happening in this is it's pulling out, and then this piece is moving back, and the contact changes with the tire, and it starts doing this. And once it starts doing this, there's not enough structural rigidity in the whole front end of these things to stop that. And it just starts, it's a violent shake. Steering wheel shakes like crazy. And if you're not really careful, it will put you in the ditch on the side of the road. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut out some circles to go in here on this side and the mating side over here, or I guess the opposing side. And then we will stitch weld those in on both sides, and that will give us some more structure in here. And then we'll pinch this whole thing down together, and that should, at least for the time being, help with this issue. So we'll get some parts made up. We'll take you over and show you getting those cut out, and we'll come back over, fire the welder up, stitch these in, bolt it all back together, and this should be a fairly easy fix. Well, a fairly easy patch. I think that this whole system, this geometry, has some inherent flaws. So we're hoping that we might redo the lower length geometry on this Jeep. Have to keep watching future videos when that's gonna come up. For right now, we need to be able to drive this without thinking we're gonna die. All right, so we did some quick measuring here, and the wear on this underhead portion of this bolt, that wear area right there, that is like 30 thousandths smaller than the threaded portion here. And if I remember right, when I put this all together, this had a very small land at the top of it that this washer lived in, but it did not have this big worn down piece that's down here. So we might have to get drastic and permanently affix this bolt to the scab plate that we're making. It's not looking good for it, because I think the next time this thing's coming out, it's gonna be way more dramatic. So we're doing some cardboard design here, because this is how my brain works. I wanna draw everything out, but I don't really have the drawing tools. So I'm gonna cut me out this little cardboard design here, which is basically a 2-inch. We're gonna call it a circle. It's not. It looked like Barney Rubble made it, but what I'm working with right now, dull pocket knife and a pair of calipers, try not to stab myself in the finger. For all intents and purposes, this will work. And then we'll just come down here and we'll make sure that a 2-inch will fit in there. So I think we'll be all right. And that basically tells us that a washer with a 625 ID and a 2-inch OD, not OB, OD. If we make 2 of those, we should be able to fix that problem. Today, all I'm worried about is literally just a stopgap patch to make that work. The autocorrect on my phone created a different word and I didn't like it. Just stopgap on this one side. Once we get this one side done, we know now we have to order shock absorbers for it. Happens, they wear out. We'll get that knocked out. We will see about getting a washer designed. All right, so we got distracted with some other stuff and we failed to show you us cutting these out. But here are the washers we made. We're gonna take one, slide it over that bolt head right there. Bring you guys down here with us. Okay, then we're just gonna take this filler here and we're gonna put it back up in through the frame. We're gonna put that on there. We're fixing to make a horrible noise. I got an earful of sand hollow, and that was nasty. So I think that if we fire up the old welder over there and just come in here, put us a couple stitches here, a couple on the inside, and I'm probably just going to tack this bolt head right flat to this, because if we do that, nothing will move, can't go anywhere. We'll probably do it on the inside too, because when we make our next move with this link, I think we're just going to cut it off. Probably going to cut it off, throw it in the trash, and we might put some Barnes 4-wheel drive parts on this thing. We might order us a kit and axle builder kit and put some long arms on this thing. At least that's the plan we came up with the other day. Stay tuned to see what we're going to end up with. I bet you it's going to be way better than this geometry, because this geometry is not very happy. So we're going to make an attempt to just weld this in right quick. I did take and put plate down on the floor, help us keep from burning Paul's floor. And I'm going to lay down here and we're going to see if we can weld this in. All right, let's see how this one likes this. I didn't like this at all because that thing is thin, thin, thin. All right, we're gonna call that good. May have got that a little warm, may have had some oil out of it. Not gonna lie, definitely blew a hole in it. All right, hole fixed. Well, she's ugly, but I think she'll stay together. And it should stop all those problems we've had. All right, I do believe we had a little oil on there that I probably should have cleaned off, but I didn't. And that's how life works. But for where we're at right now, that's gonna be it. We'll put the tire back on it. We'll take her for a rip up the street and back to make sure that we're not gonna die. If everything goes good on test drive, we are done until major modifications ensue. Well, I don't feel any wiggle in the steering wheel. We're cruising 34, 35 through town here. We'll run her up the street just a bit. I think we're good. Oh, no, there she is. Definitely not fixed. Hopefully, it's better, but I purposely hit a big old pothole with the passenger front, and she definitely talked to us. But I believe that fixing that gaping, wore out frame area will help us. We'll just have to see about ordering some parts and making our own.